0 to 60 can define a performance car, but it's the fastest 60 to 0 that's the aim of Tarox brakes. From road cars to race cars, circuits, special stages, or the autostrada, nothing reduces speed like Tarox brakes. Italy gave the world the art of Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Tarox has given drivers the art of stopping. For more information and to acquire your own masterpiece, visit tarox.co.uk. Yes, it's me, Mike Stone, and this is the Backseat Driver Podcast. I'd like to welcome to today's Backseat Driver radio show, shall we say, something of an unusual combination. I'd like to welcome Carol Quiniou, an American who lives in France, who has a penchant for classic Lotus, and comes to England whenever she can to race, although she races elsewhere as well. Good morning, Carol. Welcome to the Backseat Driver radio show.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Bearing up under the strain, as the saying tends to go over in England at times. But how's things in France?
They're doing okay. I mean, considering what we're all going through worldwide, I think we're not doing too bad. The sun is starting to shine today, so that makes for an up day. It's all right. It's kind of boring because we don't get to go to races, but it's all right. It's all right. We're doing good.
Now, how did you get into racing? Because is it a family thing? Are you following a line of races, or are you the first?
Well, actually, in my family, on my side, my dad was in the Air Force. And he always had an interest in cars, but had a motorcycle, had some cars. One of his first cars was a TR4, and he bought that in Germany. And so, he liked Porsches and Jaguars and things like that, but at that moment, he couldn't buy anything like that. And later on, actually, I started to get interested in cars. I did have an Austin Healey Bug-Eye Sprite from 1959 when I was a student in San Diego. And it was something that, with my boyfriend at the time, we rebuilt, literally. And it was a nice little car to drive around in San Diego, California. A little convertible, and very unusual for that time. And then again, afterwards, basically, I got into racing when I met my husband here in France. It took a couple of years, but his brothers, Michel and Christian, were already racing when I met Patrick. And from that time on, about 1986, 87, we started to go to Montlhéry and watch them race and follow a little bit what was going on there. And then Patrick, my husband, got interested in racing and got his first car, which was a Lynn Terrier from 1959, an ex-Brian Hart car.
Yeah.
And eventually, from that time on, we were kind of going to the races, and it was a hobby, just a hobby. And at one point, I really started to wonder about all this stuff and started to think, maybe I should get into it. And I wasn't really sure because it is kind of scary. I mean, I'd never really gotten in a car to race. I drove fast. I always drove fast. Got a lot of speeding tickets in California. But basically, I had questions, and I remember...
It is one of those things, if you've any common sense, you shouldn't get in a racing car, really, should you?
No, you shouldn't, because I think what it is I considered it like catching a virus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, once you do it, and if you do like speed and you have general, I think, a competitive nature. It's something that it kind of gets in your blood and gets under your skin, and you start to want to do it more and more and more. And that's kind of what happened, actually. It kind of grew out of that first moment when somebody said, well, why don't you get in the car and drive it around the paddock? And I'm like, looking at the car going, I don't know about this. Because at that time, I always thought that race cars, I don't know why, it just was a stigma in my head. Race cars were more dangerous than motoring cars on the freeway. And actually, it's not true. You know, it's sort of like it depends on how you drive it, of course, and knowing your stuff. But once I got in it, that was it. And I was very lucky to have the people around me who decided to actually send me off to the Winfield Racing School in Paul Ricard.
Yeah.
And that was what really got me started.
So in actual fact, they theoretically sent you there hoping you'd come back and say, nope, don't want to do that anymore.
I actually, they sent me off for 4 days just before one of the Montlhéry races. And the idea was that I would go off for 4 days, do the school, and then I'd come back, and they would put me in the Terrier. Yeah. And I would get up there on the banking and have a lot of fun, and I was just scared out of my pants. Because it's one thing to watch the races and watch the cars up there, but it's a whole nother world once you get your car going up there on the banking and gets higher and higher, and it's so steep. Yeah. And it's like I kept thinking, don't look down, don't look down, don't look down. And I actually, my legs felt like rubber. The first time out, it was really kind of scary. There's lots of things that go through your mind, and I was up there thinking, what are you doing up here? And it was kind of crazy. It was crazy because it was so intense for 4 days, learning to do everything right. Yeah. And then actually getting in the car and forgetting everything I learned.
I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, Montlhéry is, it's not far away from Paris, and it's one of the very old banked circuits. It's like Brooklands and Monza. It's a circuit I've been fortunate enough to just drive a couple of laps off. I haven't raced there, but I've driven a few laps, and I can assure anybody, when you're at the top of a banking, the speed you have to maintain to stop up there, puts the whole world into perspective, doesn't it? Because you look down on other cars that are below you that are going slower than you.
Well, yeah, you're kind of going. If I let up, there's moments when you look down and you see these other cars and you just keep thinking, for God's sake, accelerate and get away from me.
Because you can't when you're up there, you can't lift, can you? You've got to keep your foot hard in. Unless
the whole idea is the faster you go, the higher up you go, because it's sort of like a centrifuge, And so you're just sort of going up there, and you know that you can't just all of a sudden take your foot off the accelerator, because it's just gonna drop you down, and you might not drop down in the right place, and there might be a car underneath you or whatever, and there's no. You really have to be aware of that, and it was quite spectacular. And like I said, it's one thing watching other people do it and thinking, "Oh gosh, that's so cool!" And just look how easy it is. You think it's easy, and then when you get up there, it's just a whole nother world. I think it was one of the most exciting things I've ever done, actually. Yeah.
Now, as time's gone on, as I said, you've developed a reputation for racing in England, because there's one thing is there's not a lot of lady racing drivers in France. A lot, although there have been famous ones, such the most famous one, of course, was Helen Nice, who raced Bugattis. But as time's gone on, as I said, you have a passion for classic Lotus. I mean, where did the passion for the Lotus come about?
Look, that actually kind of happened because of the Terrier from Lynn Terry.
Yeah.
Because, he was a Chapman. He was with Chapman very early on, and actually was probably, I consider the Terrier sort of the grandfather of the Lotus 7.
Yeah.
And what actually happened was from the time that my husband and I started this racing, and actually at one point he decided to buy a Lotus 7.
Yeah.
Which was also in 1959, and it came from England, so everything was in the right place, except that I didn't feel like I was sitting in the right place. Because everything was, all of a sudden the side I was driving from wasn't the same and all that. But he actually, at one point, I was very, very lucky, like I said, and I thank him for that. I will always be grateful for that. Bless him. He's not with us anymore, but he put me in the car.
Yeah.
So going from the Terrier to the Lotus 7, and then at one point, his older brother, Michel Quiniou, he bought a Lotus 23. And I remember at that point, we were kind of looking at other stuff, and Patrick really liked the Lotus 23. I'm not really sure about the reasons behind it, but he decided to buy one. And that Lotus 23 eventually became mine.
Yeah.
And I did drive Michel's car for about a year and a half. And so there was a moment when Patrick and I were actually racing in some races together, he in our Lotus 23 and myself in Michel's car. And so that was quite interesting because we were driving on the same track at the same time. So it was an interesting moment to share.
Who was the faster driver?
I'm not going to answer that. Only because actually at that moment, pretty much parallel to that moment, there were some decisions that were made. And Patrick decided more to go into organizing events. And he was really involved in ASAV, which is one of the oldest associations here in France. And he became president of ASAV, and then also started to get interested in the Formula Ford historics. And we actually did have a recreation of a Lotus 59. Yeah. Which I drove. I ended up driving. Actually, that's where all this started happening, is that the Terrier, we sold it. We had the Lotus 7, so there was driving going on for me in the Lotus Trophy here in France. I was driving a Lotus 23, and I ended up driving the Formula Ford Lotus. So it was all Lotus.
Right.
And basically, I think the Formula Ford was probably a revelation for me. That's when I really felt like I was in a car that I felt one with.
Yeah. And
the Lotus 23 was my baby in a way because I love sport prototypes.
Yeah.
But the sheer size of them when they're all put together, because you there's sort of a difference between when you strip them down, they look so small, and when you put their bodies on them, they look like monsters.
Yeah.
And so the Lotus 23 for me was sort of like a compromise between getting my butt into a sport prototype.
Yeah.
That I felt like I was overwhelmed by, and then this little Barquette, which just seemed to be, it was my size.
Yeah.
I felt really, really good in it. And the Lotus 23 is the one that I owned until just about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so Lotus became sort of my thing, and parallel to that, I drove at the same time. Actually, this was all going on all at the same time. I was driving 1964 911 for a team called Polybay.
Yeah.
And we did only endurance racing for that. And so I was lucky enough, with all this stuff going on, got an awful lot of experience behind the wheel, because in the Porsche, we did 24-hour races, 12-hour, 8-hour. This was the high moment for Van der Wever organization, which did mostly historic endurance racing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you find going from, shall we say, a conventional race of however many laps, say 20 laps or 30 laps or half an hour in duration, to racing 24 hours, to racing endurance? Because it is a whole different world, is sports car racing.
Well, I actually think that I was better, I think, in endurance racing than I was in the sprint, what I call sprint racing.
Yeah.
Because it's not that I wasn't good at getting off the start line or anything like that. It's just that once I got into the rhythm of it, it just became natural.
Yeah.
And I am very competitive. I mean, I don't think it seems that way to people who see me all the time. They think I'm this calm person, but inside it's sort of like, I'm gonna get you. My dad, he was in the Air Force. He was a soldier, and I think he instilled in me this sort of idea about soldiering on.
Yeah.
No matter what. And so I loved being in the car for 2 hours and 10 minutes. We would stretch it because by regulation, we were supposedly not allowed to be in the car more than 2 hours and maximum 10 minutes extra. And I just loved it. Once I got in there, it just became such... It was about me, actually. There was the competition. I have to say that. I mean, of course, everybody wants to move up in the grid and be the best that they can. But at one point in endurance racing, you're actually racing against yourself, because every time you go by, you want to know you're getting better and better.
Yeah, what you don't want to discover that the lap you've just done is 10 seconds slower than the previous one, and if it is, exactly. you want to know why was it slower. At times, if you're behind a back marker, you know why you're slower, but right. If not, you haven't a clue why you're slower.
Yeah, it was so endurance racing actually was that's where I got a lot of time on the track. And where the tracks became very familiar, so I didn't have to worry about learning them, or it was a little bit different coming over to the UK to race, because that was not my backyard.
Yeah.
And so it was, that's when my old uncertainties would pop back up again, and I would start to kind of panic sometimes. Not panic, I wouldn't call it panicking, but it's the unknown, where is that corner, and not knowing how it goes. And the first time that I would go to Brands Hatch or race at Goodwood, when I went to Goodwood looked really easy when you look at a map. It's sort of like you go, oh, geez, yeah, interesting. It's sort of like Montlhéry too can look really easy, but then when you get on there and with the banking and stuff, and Goodwood was one of those for me. me. It was sort of like I was just like a baby learning to walk again.
Yeah.
And it was quite a revelation for me, actually, to be on that track because of the changes in the tarmac and changes. They're subtle changes.
Yeah.
And if you don't know them beforehand, there are an awful lot of guys racing that track that know it. I mean, they could probably walk it with their eyes closed.
Yeah.
So it was all that kind of stuff was sort of, thank goodness I did have the experience behind the wheel to know know enough that I could do this. Because, it was, good times. I just, it's sort of like...
The other thing is when you race at Goodwood, you're also very, very, shall we say, you're probably very conscious of some of the great names and great drivers that have raced there and won there and everything else, and you're following in some serious footsteps, aren't you?
It's overwhelming. First time. I mean, especially for me as a woman, it's sort of like, I remember getting the information that, oh my gosh, I'm going to Goodwood. It was, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, it's sort of like, at that moment, and this is the American side of me speaking, it was like saying to somebody who's like 10 years old that you're going to Disneyland for the first time, you know? This is the growl of all racers as far as I'm concerned. For me anyway, it was the fact that I was going to the UK. For me, that I considered that as one of the UK is just, for me, it's connected to racing. It's connected to car building, to racing. Some of the most interesting cars, especially the Lotus. And so when I was told that I was invited, or should I say the car was invited to drive at Goodwood, this was in 2006. And I just couldn't believe it. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I don't know where this place is. I don't know how to get there. I don't, So the people that I knew in the UK, Simon Hadfield, who was taking care of the car. Yeah. He told me basically, okay, don't worry, we'll get you there, and the car will be there, and blah blah blah. And I actually booked a session at Goodwood, and I took at the time I had this little Alfa Romeo brake. Yeah. And I took that car over there and drove it around the track for the day. And, I had a monitor guy. He took me around in it first, and then he said, "Okay, do you think you'll be all right?" And he said, "Let's change places." And so I got in the car and I started going, and then he let me go by myself. And I didn't even think about the tires at the time. You know, and I remember getting back onto. I kept thinking, God, the car doesn't feel right when I was going back to the ferry. The car kind of doing some weird things here, and no wonder, because I didn't even take the time to look at the tires when I was, going before I went and drove back. But when I got back home in France, it was sort of like, oh my gosh, I've got to buy 4 tires.
Not forgetting as well, you probably need some new brake pads and everything else, because circuit work isn't particularly kind to your average road car, is it?
No, not at all. But it was really, I think that was really important for me to have done that, because then I could come over and I wouldn't have to worry about learning the track. Of course, one day does not, it's not enough. I think I'm quite jealous of everybody who gets to go there so often. Even on the off times, like, to have the days when they can go and run their different cars on the road, on the track, excuse me. But, it's just, I've been very, very lucky to, and I do think part of it is luck, because I happened on to people who actually thought that I was good at what I was doing. And the fact that I was a woman did not make it a problem. Of course, there's always those who it's not that they don't like women on the track, but even now, after having raced 24 years, I still get some of the I don't want to, some of the crap about being a female. And there's lots of stories about certain things that did happen to me on the track because of that. And there's it was just like I said, I met a lot of people who believed in what I was doing, thought that I could do better, pushed me to do better, and gave me sometimes possibility to drive other cars than I would have, because I've driven other cars just because somebody said, well, get in the car and take it for a spin, or why don't you drive this car with me, or so that was also a big plus.
Because I mean, besides the cars that you've raced Lotus Elan, Lotus Ford Cortinas, you've raced a Ford Falcon as well, haven't you?
Yes, I did. That was I was asked by Robert Sarai at the time. We were due to race in Dijon, and Robert Sarai had this Ford Falcon, and his son Fabian was driving it in the race, and he said, "Well, we'll do a 2-driver thing, and I'd like you to share the car with Fabian." And I thought, oh, whoa, this is going to be interesting. And, every time there's another type of car that comes into play, it's sort of like, I call it sniffing about.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine who lives in Uruguay, he noticed that whenever I'm at Retromobile or on a paddock or something like that, I actually, one of the first things I do, it's sort of, it's going to sound really crazy when I say this, but it's like a dog. I stick my nose into the driver area, and I'm just sort of looking around and taking it all in, and I smell the car.
Yeah.
And it's really important for me. I don't know why, and I don't know where this came from, but it's something that, he noticed that, and he just said, you're a car sniffer.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what I did with the Ford Falcon. I got into it, and I'm just thinking, okay, this is okay, Carol. It's a boat.
Because I'm not just butting in. I mean, compared to the cars you have raced, the Falcon would have seemed A, enormous, and B, they do sway around a lot. As you said, they are a barge. They're heavy.
Compared to the 23, it was like, it was like getting from a Riva into a Titanic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it, what was interesting too, at that time, Robert was trying to figure out, we were kind of changing the steering wheels to find the right size.
Yeah.
Actually, this sort of like, we were testing that at the same time. And, so there were some things going on, and of course I didn't really pay attention to all of that because I was there just to drive the car, actually, And I remember it was at Dijon, and there's this one area we call the cuvette, which is goes down into a plunge, and it's a left-hander and goes up to the parabole. And the car actually, I remember it dancing. It was like hopping around on its wheel.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting. That was the first time I actually had the sensation of this sort of like, it's like, imagine the Michelin Man being your tires.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, boom, boom, boom. It's sort of, it's the Pillsbury Doughboy. Kind of just hopping down on that, and it was amazing. I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I understand why muscle cars are such a adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
The one car that I've driven on the road, and I really enjoy driving. I did drive one of my friends, Bernard Perouche, who had at that time a blue and white Cobra.
Yeah.
He switched over at one time to a road car, and he actually has the road car, the Roadster today. And I remember him taking it to Le Mans, and they were testing and they were driving the other car. And he actually said to me, well, I've taken the tickets for the you can get out on the road with the road car on the track. And he had bought some tickets, and he said, well, why don't you take them and take people? Because that was the thing. We could drive the car around, but we needed to take passengers on.
Yeah.
So he suggested I do that. And I was really, really, really quite humble about it, because Cobra is like, wow. I would have loved to have raced one in a real race, which I never got the possibility to do. But just driving it around Le Mans, it didn't keep me from opening up the throttle, of course. And it was just absolutely amazing, and just to feel that power. And I get a real rush from knowing when I control something like that,
yeah,
and I'm capable of doing it. And I was quite proud of what I've been doing as a racer, because I have to admit, I love speed. I mean, there's nothing like just feeling all that power and just letting it run through you, and actually know that you're part of the car.
Yeah.
And I think that's what was really one of the things that gave me the leitmotiv to keep on doing it. And it's just, I love the shapes of the historics. I so enjoy hearing the noise, and like I said, the smells. I mean, I don't really get that excited about the whizzing sound of modern cars, or F1 does not do it for me.
The surprising thing is the number of people who have raced or do race and are associated with cars of, shall we say, 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s. And like me, they have no interest in modern Formula One. One thing I'd said is, if you park all the current Formula One cars in a row and all the livery was taken away from them, they were all just white, they would all look alike. But the modern racing cars, there's no soul and no spirit in them. They're just a modern thing that can go quickly.
Yeah, I think too, one of the things that kind of, I mean, for me, racing, kind of the F1 racing, when Senna was gone, that was it for me.
Yeah.
I did not get excited about other racers out there, and I don't know what it is exactly, why certain racers from the old school racing times and the vintage racing and all that, I don't know why certain drivers appeal to me more than others. I think there's, one of the things that F1 lacks today is a certain kind of charisma.
There's no character to them anymore. I mean, back in the heydays, the lady who kindly introduced us was Christian Ireland, daughter of Innes Ireland. And you look at Innes and you look at Graham Hill and people like that, and these guys were characters in their own rights. They had as much character as the cars that they raced, and even out of the car, they were bigger personalities than anybody could credit. But they were still hard racing, committed drivers. Whereas today, they're not. They're just little corporate clones.
Well, that's one of the things that I don't adhere to. In all of that is that it's sort of like when you go into a grocery store and you look at apples, and all the apples look the same.
Yeah.
there's no differences. It's sort of they're all the same size. They're all the same, like you were saying about the silhouettes of the cars. If you painted them all white, they would all look the same.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I think is particularly interesting about historic racing today, and also in concurrence the what it was at the time when it was actually happening in the 50s and 60s, up to the 70s and 80s, is that most of the guys who were in the car to drive other cars, they would get from one type of car into the other. They would be capable of getting as much out of a monoplace as they could out of a sports car or a GT or whatever. And they were multi-talented, you know, and then today, I know one of the things that I've often talked about with other people is that you take the racer from F1 today and you put them for the first time into one of our oldies. And they're like going, whoa, it's shaking all over the place. It's making all kinds of noises. It's doing this, it's doing that. And actually, it takes them a while to understand that that's what the car was doing, and that's exactly what it's supposed to do, and that's how it's supposed to sound.
Or as I always say, they are incapable of working out that the car is talking to them.
There you go. There you go. They aren't listening to their car talking to them. That is very true, and they're not feeling it because they don't. They you know, we often say, and well, I think it's true in F1 too. I would imagine. I've never had a conversation of it with some of these modern day guys. I haven't talked to any of them, but I know that one of the first things that I learned is that you feel the car as much with your butt as you do in your hands on the steering wheel or anywhere else.
And through your feet. If that's why you wear thin-soled shoes, you can feel what the pedals are talking about.
Yes. I really, this whole idea about, you know, we say here in France, ça me va comme un gant. That means it feels like a glove.
Yeah.
So when I would slide into the car, it's sort of like, it was like putting on a glove.
Yeah.
You just your whole body just goes in there, and it's so wonderful to have that feeling of forgetting that the car and you are separate parts. When you don't feel like the car is just mechanical or just. I've never looked at a car as being something that's just an object.
Yeah.
And that if I don't like the looks of the car, I know I won't drive it well.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also a part of the empathy you have for these older cars is because you like the looks of it.
Yeah.
They're, you know, all the things come together, and it's quite interesting when people ask me. They said, "Well, you know, what do you think of when you?" And I go, "You don't think when you're. I mean, you're not supposed to think when you're in the car. You're not supposed to be thinking about your grocery list or you know, Monday I've got to take the kids to school and you know all that kind of stuff. No, you're not thinking while you're in the car, and actually." That was one of the revelations I had in the early 2000s, is the moment when I forgot completely that I was doing stuff. It was sort of like in the car. It was, I remember it so clearly. It was at Jarama, and I was in the Lotus 23. We were doing a 12-hour race. I was driving with Helen Bashford, who was my co-driver for that race. And she took me around the track by foot. And so we were walking and talking about the track and talking about the car. And I got in the car for the race. And there was a moment when I kind of I don't know how to explain it really. I consciously thought about the fact that I wasn't thinking about being a driver in a car, but being the car.
Yeah.
And at that moment, because I became conscious of the fact that, I thought about it, the rhythm dropped.
Yeah.
It was really interesting because we looked at the times and I said, I know exactly what happened there. It was when I let something else come kind of drifting through my brain at that moment.
You started thinking.
Yeah. And it wasn't so, up to that point, it was just so fluid and so it's like a metronome for a piano player, a musician, and that was sort of a times when there are revelations, I think, and it's also there's certain moments when you get faster and faster, and when you go over the 200, and when you do these things, and you're going up the ladder in terms of speed and stuff like that. Once you get past those little points, then you become a better driver, I think. You control your anger. If you're angry, you control your breathing, but you don't forget to breathe. There's a lot of that, because all of these little things are actually what makes you a better driver, I think.
Now, before we go, because we're running out of time, 2 quick questions. Which is your all-time favourite racing car, and which is your all-time favourite circuit?
Okay. My all-time favorite racing car, if I does it have to be when I drive, or?
Yeah, well, preferably one that you've driven, yeah.
Oh, the Lotus 23.
Right. And which is your favourite circuit?
My favourite circuit is Dijon. Just because I always considered it a little spa. It's got everything for me in terms of a small circuit. It's got everything that Spa has in it, and it's my favorite because it was my backyard. Yeah. Because of the organizing of L'Âge d'Or de Montlhéry, and the fact that we use that circuit quite a lot for our events. I knew that circuit really, really well. And so I have to say that in driving terms and knowing the circuit, it would have to be Dijon. And my second favorite, I have to say, is Goodwood, only because it's just so, everything about it is amazing.
Carol Quiniou, I'm going to have to stop you. We could carry on for hours. We could probably fill about 3 shows with this. Well, Carol Quiniou, it's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you for taking the time to chat to me from your home in France.
Well, thank you for asking me. Very, very honoured. Yes.
All being well, we will see you back in a circuit, or on a circuit in England, driving a Lotus or a Porsche or whatever. But until then, Carol, thank you very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. And have a good day, and be safe. Stay healthy.
We'll try to. Cheers, Carol. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Rarely beaten on price, never beaten on service. Whether it's cars, bikes or commercials, Hoddy Tyres are the best in the business. And when it comes to tyre expertise and advice to supplying the correct tyres for your vehicle's specific requirements, nobody comes close to David Lakin and the Hoddy Tyres team. So give them a call on 01200 613 192 or visit the website at hoddytyres.co.uk.